Welcome to this session of the Intuitive Medicine Summit, where we will explore ways to participate in our own healing with my guest, Lisa Bonnice. Our topic today is shape-shifting, intuition, and weight balancing. Lisa Bonnice is an award-winning author, former stand-up comedian, and program host with the Shift Network. Her first book, Shape-Shifting, The Body, Mind, Spirit, Weight Solution, includes a foreword by Neil Donald Walsh. Lisa, thank you for joining us and welcome to the session.
Thank you, Nadira. I'm so looking forward to our conversation because we always have a blast when we get together. So
Yeah,
I'm looking forward.
I'm hoping that we can capture that in this conversation. And I'm really excited to hear what you have to share today as well. So I understand that you lost 50 pounds while researching and writing shape shifting, but that you don't recommend a specific diet. Can you say some of what you did in order to lose the weight?
Yeah. When I wrote Shapeshifting, it was about 20 years ago, and I was just beginning my exploration of alternative health and wellness, like Reiki and soul retrieval and past life regression, all that really interesting stuff. But I was also really struggling with my weight at the time. I was at an all-time high, and I simply refused to buy yet another size up. That was as big as I was going to let myself get, but my clothes weren't fitting, so you got to do something. So I started out with the standard eat less, exercise more model because, that's what we're all taught to do. But because at the time I was really deeply immersed in learning all these new metaphysical tricks that I was learning. So I applied that to myself and my process. And I learned that for me, it's different for everybody, but for me, it wasn't as much about which diet or exercise program I was devoting myself to, especially because I had physical issues that made exercising really difficult. So I learned that it truly was about self-care and listening to my body, using my intuition about why I couldn't lose the weight with those two supposedly simple tools, eat less, exercise more. Easy chemistry, physics, etc. But it wasn't working for me. So instead, I dove into the reasons that I was out of balance to begin with. And the primary reason I discovered at that time was that I wasn't putting myself first. I wasn't taking care of myself. And, this is really sort of a no-brainer, isn't it? Now we all know this, but back then I was much younger and I didn't know how to put my needs first, to put my oxygen mask on before helping others. And another thing was that I needed to eat healthier, not less. It wasn't about the calories as much as about eating processed foods and foods that my body didn't do well with. So at the time, I was using Dr. Elson Haas's false fat diet because that's what I needed at that time. It worked wonderfully, but there's a lot more to this than just changing your diet. I also at the time was terribly sick. I was suffering from debilitating vertigo. I was literally out of balance. So I wasn't burning a lot of calories, eat less, exercise more wasn't the answer for me. So just taking care of myself, listening to my body's needs, using these tools that I was learning, and of course, tweaking my physical regimen was what I needed to do. It's very individualized. One size does not fit all.
Absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. And actually the part where you talk about learning more about self-care, that feels very intriguing to me and very interesting. And also where you say that you needed to learn how to use your own intuition. Can you say a little bit more about both of those, especially how we can apply our intuition to take better care of ourselves and our bodies?
Yeah. Again, it was more about figuring out, well, I was asking myself, what's wrong with me? Why can't I lose weight? And I was really sort of attacking myself for not being able to succeed at something everybody else seemed to have no problem with. Although in reality, everybody else was, if you watch TV, you're seeing diet pills, you're seeing people pounding themselves at the gym. This is not an easy process. It's not like anybody was just tra la la losing weight. But the way that I was seeing it, there's something wrong with me. So I had to look into, again, I mentioned that I had vertigo. So I really focused a lot on, why am I so out of balance? Why does just getting up off the couch send me into a tailspin? So I tried very hard to work on finding my balance, finding my center. And I developed, these little brain tricks where I pretended I had, I don't know if you remember these, they're little toys. It's like a disc with it's a cardboard bottom with a plastic top. And there's these little balls and there's little holes you're supposed to, do this with. And I pretended that my brain was one of those, and the center of my brain was the hole. And I just would, focus on bringing that little ball into the center of my mind. And even though this was just a goofy little trick to me, it really helped me to learn, okay, this is what I need to do to stay balanced. And even though I struggled with the vertigo for many years, that was just one of the little personal tricks that I was able to develop for myself.
Yeah. I notice in myself that I get very excited when I hear about someone going on a journey like you're describing, and then the ways that life brings all of these little messages back to you. So you're like, oh, I'm going to be more intuitive and more in touch with my body and more aware of myself. And then you find out that you are not only physically out of balance, but also that you are feeling very literally out of balance too. That's fascinating. Can you say a little bit more about why you called your book Shape Shifting, or why you call this process shape shifting?
Yeah, actually, I think all of us who are digging into the human potential and spirituality and all the lovely things that shift, we all know that we aren't just a physical body, that, within this physical form, there's a light body which holds our healthiest imprint. It's in there. It's just buried under all this gunk, the physically hardened thoughts and impressions that came from other people or from past life crap or ancestral trauma, that type of thing. So there's all this stuff that isn't really us. Inside us there is our healthiest self. So what I call shape shifting is tuning into that imprint deliberately connecting with it as often as possible and asking it to change my physical form from the inside out. I tune in, I can do it right now and I can feel right now, whoa, this feels amazing. And then I ask it to ripple outward into my energy field and create change from the inside out. And I've learned that when I do this, not only do my body's conditions improve, I also find myself synchronistically drawn to helpful information that can actually help me solve problems, like what's causing this, what's blocking me.
Ah, now I want you to go all the way into that information. It sounds a lot like what I've experienced when I've been on meditation retreats, and I've like at through the process of going through my body, I've felt places where I was holding like wounds
Mhm.
or physical experiences that I've had, emotional experiences, and things like that. And that
Mhm.
clearing that out allows you to move in the world in a different way.
Yeah, absolutely. Because as we know, intuition is about sensing into the energy of a situation itself. So the more that I used my intuition, I was able to sense, the healthy me that I mentioned that was buried beneath all the turmoil that had become excess physical weight. And the lack of being able to exercise was the true challenge. And that was the thing that I really had to dive into, because for me, changing my diet, eating healthier, eating cleaner, that really was the easy part. I mean, it's not easy to turn away chocolate cake, but it wasn't the diet part that was hard for me. It was figuring out what was keeping me from really embracing this. What's with the illness? So again, I gained COVID weight just like everybody else. So I restarted this process trying to figure out, all right, what's blocking me? And so I started this again. I have this journal format that I use. And so I started again listening to my body's signals. And let me give you an example. This time, the COVID weight, this has been a real struggle getting it to drop off. I mean, I really I had a hard time with this. And I even asked my doctor to help me with it. And I told her that no matter how badly I wanted to fit into my clothes, because that was the main issue, I had nothing that fit me anymore. And I wasn't concerned about a bikini body because I never really wanted one of those anyway. But that's another story. I just didn't want to buy a new wardrobe. I needed help getting started. I was stuck. I couldn't make myself even care enough about this to even make the effort. I really needed help. I was asking for help. Please help me with this. And her response was like a gut punch. She said, without really paying attention to what I had just said my struggle was, she says, yeah, there's a lot of good food out there. And that's not what I said. I know eat less, exercise more. I've done the diets. I've restricted my food intake so many times. I know the drill. My question was, why can't I make myself care enough to bother eating healthier, to do any of this? And, COVID lockdown is sort of forcing us all to do a lot of self-examination. So as usual, I do it myself. I dug up my shape-shifting journaling format that I created for myself all these years ago and started logging again. And through the process of exploration and following my intuition, tracking my dreams, I synchronistically came across some life-changing information that a seemingly unrelated issue I was having with my liver can actually cause weight loss resistance. So sometimes it is physical. Sometimes it's not just, the metaphysical stuff. But what I noticed in one of my dreams that I logged in my journal included making homemade lemonade. A totally off the wall dream, seemingly unconnected to anything. But that same day, I discovered that lemon juice in warm water, which I have right here, it'll help detox the liver. So now, in addition to eating cleaner and getting as much healthy exercise as my body allows, I'm working on an actual cause of the problem, which my regular doctors knew I was struggling with. They knew that I have this thing going on with my liver, and they're not offering any suggestions, but they never said that it could cause weight loss resistance. I had to learn that elsewhere by following a trail of breadcrumbs that my inner self was leaving to guide me.
I love that. I love it. Um, because I also feel like there's a thing that you're showing, there's a direction that you're taking us in that is very different from diet culture. And as you're saying, like eat less, move your body more, which is not accessible to everyone, nor is it beneficial to everyone. But it sounds like what you're talking about is a process of getting more in tune with your physical self, getting more in tune with your spiritual and emotional self, and then bringing those into a place of harmony and connection.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Thanks for listening. Check out Castle Gate, a novel based on my own ancestral healing journey, at lisabonnice.com. In 1921, 4 men set off from Scotland to the United States. Will Garrock, his brother Pete, his son Willie, and his nephew Thomas, all coal miners. They left behind the miners' rows and the nationwide mining strike with its soup kitchens. Their destination was Castlegate, Utah, where they had kin to welcome them before sending for their wives and children. They prospered in America, working in one of the finest mines in Utah. Until that tragic day, March 8th, 1924. Disaster struck. 3 explosions, trapping 171 men inside. Rescue crews worked tirelessly for days, but sadly, they could not save a soul. Women were widowed and children were orphaned, and some never recovered from their broken hearts. Castlegate is the true and tragic saga of a Scottish family whose dreams of finding their fortunes in the bountiful coal mines of Castlegate, Utah during the Prohibition era explode in one of the most devastating mine disasters in American history. Learn more at lisabonnice.com.